Ciao, my friends. Welcome to my home. This is a place where I teach you how to use whole ingredients and simple recipes that create great tasting foods that you'll want to add them to your meals. I have a great dinner that comes together in less than 30 minutes that I want to share with you, and it's chicken marsala. It is light and creamy, and it has a delicious mushroom sauce, and I'm also going to give you some suggestions of some great side dishes to serve with it. So I want to teach you how to put this together. Pronto? Allora andiamo a cucinare. To start making our chicken marsala, we need our chicken. You can either use breasts or thighs, it really doesn't matter. I have 2 breasts here, and they're kind of thick on the side, so I am going to slice them in half horizontally. The other thing you do want to make sure is that you dry your chicken breast. You don't want your chicken breast to be wet. So just grab a paper towel and just soak up any extra moisture. And to cut your chicken breast in half, we take our knife and just put a little pressure and cut horizontally. And so now you've got 2. So it kind of extends your meal a little bit also. So you just want to place your hand on your chicken breast and just evenly slice it halfway down, and then you can separate it. So now we have 4 breasts. And if you find that they're still a little thick on one end as opposed to the other, you can just get a piece of plastic wrap, and then using a mallet, just lightly tap down on the thicker side. Now you don't want to tap these really thin to make like a thin scallopini type of cutlet. You just kind of want to even it out so that it cooks a little bit more even in your saute pan. All right, so now we have our saute pan, and we want to drizzle some olive oil. I probably want to add about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And you want to wait for that to get nice and hot. And while that's heating up, we can season our chicken breasts. Now, there's a couple ways to season the chicken breast. We can either put the salt and pepper directly on our chicken breast, or we have some flour here that we're going to be dredging our chicken in. I've got about a half a cup, so I'm just going to add that to a flat surface, this plate. We can salt and pepper our flour and do it that way to season our chicken breast. I don't like to do it this way because you actually use a lot more salt and pepper, and a lot of this is just going to get tossed. So I prefer to season my chicken breast directly. So to do that, you just want to sprinkle some salt. Now I'm going to do pepper. All right. And then we'll just flip, and we'll add salt and pepper on the second side. Now that we've seasoned our chicken breasts, we want to now add them to our flour. And we basically just want to coat both sides lightly with the flour. We're not looking to have a lot of flour in there, and just shake off any excess flour. And now that our oil is hot, we can just place our chicken breast right into the oil. So now we want to saute these for about 3 or 4 minutes till they get golden brown. And we do have some flour left over, so don't get rid of that. I will show you how we can actually use some of that to help thicken our sauce. And so we just want to, over medium-high heat, just wait for these to cook golden brown, and then we'll flip them over. The one thing about chicken marsala, technically it's not really an Italian dish, it's Italian-American. But it's a takeoff on the traditional Italian dish, scallopini, which is a very thin cut meat. And if you've ever gone to Italy and eaten the meat there, you'll notice that they actually have very thin cuts of meat. They don't have thick cuts of meat like they do here in America. Typically it's thin, and that's the scallopini. And that's kind of where the original concept came from. But again, it's an Italian-American dish. Now, if you are gluten-free, you don't have to use flour. You could use cornstarch instead. That would give it the same effect. And the nice thing about this, the flour that we have in the pan, there is a little bit that's going to be left with the oil, so it is going to also help thicken our sauce, and we'll use some additional flour to help thicken it even more. So now that it's golden brown on one side, I am just going to flip it over so that the other side can get cooked now. Okay, so while those are cooking, I'm going to slice up my mushrooms. Now, typically, portobello mushrooms is what's used, but you could use whatever you like. I like a variety of mushrooms, so not only do I use the portobello, but I find some other mushrooms that they have as well. It could be the oyster mushrooms or the porcini or whatever you like. So I'm doing a combination of mushrooms. So you just want to go ahead and slice your mushrooms. And when your chicken's ready, you can always use your thermometer, and it should reach at least 165 degrees, which it did, and our chicken's perfect. So now I can remove our chicken from the pan and just set it on a plate until we are ready to return it later. Okay. All right, so now we're going to add to the oil that's already in the pan, we're going to add about 2 tablespoons of butter. And if you wanted to make this dairy-free, you could just really add a little bit more olive oil or coconut oil if you want to add some creaminess to it. That's totally fine. It doesn't have to be dairy. And then we are going to add our mushrooms. Now at this point, we just want to saute our mushrooms in the butter. We don't really want to season with any salt at this point either, because the whole purpose of salt is to extract moisture from whatever it is you're cooking. And we really don't want to extract any moisture from our mushrooms because we don't want them swimming in water. We want them to actually saute. So we are not going to be doing any salting at this point. Just kind of stir them around a little bit and just let them saute until they kind of get soft. But in the meantime, we can chop up some garlic. And I would probably use anywhere from 2 to 4 cloves of garlic. Now this is a pretty large clove. This came from my garden. It's elephant garlic, so it's not quite as strong as regular garlic, but I am probably going to use about half of it. But if I wasn't using this and I was using regular garlic, I would use about 4 cloves of garlic. So now we're going to add our garlic. And I didn't want to add it too far into the beginning because I don't want my garlic to burn because it's a very delicate ingredient. And so now that the mushrooms have kind of gotten soft, the garlic will start to flavor and you can just already smell the aroma. It doesn't take long for garlic to cook, so I didn't want it to burn. So now that the mushrooms are done, like I said, that is the ideal time to add that in there. The aroma of the garlic, you can smell it, so I know the garlic is cooked. So now I'm going to add my liquid. And to add the liquid, we add our Marsala wine, and you want to use a dry wine, not a sweet wine. And we are now going to also add some chicken broth, or actually mine is bone broth. But you can add chicken broth, bone broth, or if you don't have either, you can even just add some water. And it's just a way to kind of mellow out the wine flavor. And I have a little bit left in here, so now that flour that we had saved earlier, I'm going to take about 2 tablespoons of this flour and put it into my broth. And I just want to whisk it up just to kind of incorporate that flour so there's no lumps in here. And again, if you wanted to make it gluten-free, you could do the cornstarch as well, no problem. And then we're going to add that to our liquid. And we just want to mix that up. Now at this point, it's the perfect time to season with salt. Add a little bit of salt, add a little bit of pepper. We'll let that cook. We'll see how it tastes, and if we need to add more, we will. And as soon as it starts to thicken, we will then add our chicken breast. Now this is the perfect time that if you wanted to make this dish ahead of time, you can have your sauce ready, you can have your chicken breast ready, and just before you want to serve it to your guests, you can just heat the two up together and it is perfect. So I'll show you what it looks like when it gets nice and thick. So I am going to add a little bit of parsley, not only to the sauce, but for garnish. And you can pretty much add however much you like. But I'm going to say about 1/4 cup. And you just want to chop this up fine. Okay. All right, so you can see our sauce is nice and thick. So now I'm gonna add a couple tablespoons of the chopped parsley, and I'm gonna take our chicken breasts and add them back into our sauce. And you wanna get them nice and coated in this sauce. Because our chicken breast is already cooked, all we need to do is just heat it up. So this will just take a few minutes. All right, so one of the things I'm gonna serve my chicken marsala with is some spaghetti. So to do that, I just have about 4 tablespoons of butter. Again, if you wanted to make it dairy-free, you could add a different oil of choice. I also like to add just a little bit of salt and some pepper. And I also like to throw in some fresh parsley. And I just mix that up until all the butter is melted. Now, in Italy, pasta is one course, meat is a separate course. So you will never have pasta with meat together in Italy. So we're just gonna mix everything up until all that butter is incorporated. And turn off my stove here for the chicken. And so to plate this, I'm gonna add some pasta. And the other nice thing about adding pasta to this dish is it actually kind of extends the dish. So if you didn't have enough chicken breasts or they were too thin, by adding pasta would be great. Some of the other things that you could add to this dish would be either like roasted potatoes, mashed potatoes, rice, any kind of side vegetable. If you wanted to make it a carb-free dish, that would be great also. And I always make a little extra sauce so that I can pour it over whatever side I'm gonna have. And you could just even serve just the chicken marsala with a side salad. That would be really tasty as well, and it would be very healthy. And then of course I'm just gonna garnish with a little bit more of the fresh parsley, because I love the fresh parsley because I think that gives it a nice fresh taste. So I hope you will give this one a try, and please go ahead and subscribe, like, and hit notifications so you get more simple, delicious, healthy meals from me. Ciao, ci vediamo dopo.